Hello everyone, I'm Mark from My Catholic Library, and it's my mission to make sure that we all have the beautiful, well-made books that I think we deserve, that are going to help broaden our minds and strengthen our faith. Imagine trying to raise your heart and mind to God prayerfully in Mass while using a hand missal that's in this condition. And this is what one lovely Irish lady has been doing for many years, until she found My Catholic Library. She sent this in and she would like it back in some sort of working order where she doesn't have to spend Mass wrestling with the thing to keep it in one piece. To revive this book into something fit for Holy Mass, I need to do three main things. To straighten the spine, which has collapsed, as you can see. Remove these makeshift missal tabs. More on why those are a terrible idea later. And make a new leather covering, which we bookbinders actually call a case, so I need to make a new case for this. Since I've got a few hand missal projects on the go at the moment, and all of them involve making new leather cases, I thought what I'd do is, in each video, rather than showing the whole process, I'd show one aspect of it. So to see how I turn this knackered old missal into this strong and beautiful book, keep watching. The focus of this episode is preparing the leather for the cover. Before I can do that though, I need to straighten out the spine. It's a simple matter of gluing it up with EVA and leaving it to dry under weights for 24 hours so it sets in this shape. Ah yes, the missal tabs. This lady was told to put these in by a priest. Time in purgatory for this one, I'm afraid, Reverend Father, because they will always cause tears like this in this thin Bible paper, or India paper it's sometimes called. So please don't put them in your hand missals, they are completely unnecessary. To get rid of them, I turn to a surprise ingredient that you can actually find in every bindery: lighter fluid. It's just the thing for dissolving the sticky tape adhesive, and it evaporates without leaving a stain. A drop or two applied to both sides of the tab with a cotton wool bud is more than enough, and to make sure that the tear doesn't get any worse, I have to very gently slide the scalpel under it until it comes off. Obviously, I repaired the tears caused by the tabs, there were a number of them, and then moved on to the more serious repairs, and reattaching a ripped corner is pretty serious. This had actually torn years ago, so it's remarkable that it was still with the book. Japanese tissue is the go-to repair material for all bookbinders, very light, very strong. I tear a piece into the right shape and apply it with paste, protecting the pages either side from the moisture with a clear sheet of acetate. As you can see, once it's dry, it's near invisible. On to the main part of this video, preparing the leather to cover the book. I will admit that this is a slightly odd looking way of measuring the missal so that I know how much leather is needed, but a book is an irregular shape. Holding everything in position, I wrap a strip of paper around the book and mark the edges of the boards, which tells me how wide the piece of leather needs to be. For the height, I just use the height of the boards and I add a margin to all four sides. With those measurements, I make a template out of heavy paper. Wrapping the cutout around the book just confirms that I've got the right dimensions, and then I use the frame to check the leather for blemishes like flea bites or if the calf has scratched itself on a fence post or something. Cutting around the cutout then gives me the perfect piece of leather. When working with leather, I typically put a sheet of foam under it so the cutting mat doesn't scuff the leather I've just spent all that time finding an unblemished piece of. Being somewhat obsessive about these details, I then check the fit again with the leather itself. This absolute slab is a lithostone, and yes, I know, that's like saying a stone, but that is what it's called. It's a polished chunk of limestone for paring, that is thinning out the leather, that will neither mark the leather nor damage my knives in the process. Speaking of which, the first thing I do is just give the knives a quick strop to sharpen them up. You'll only see the first time I do this, but I was taught when you stop, strop. So I would typically do this somewhere around half a dozen times for a piece of leather this size. A top-up of sharpening compound, then a quick strop to put a keen edge back on the knife. I pare the edges with a French paring knife, and I'm doing it painfully slowly here. I'm not entirely sure why, but it gives me the chance to ask you to hit the like button if you're enjoying this video so far. It really helps, and I do appreciate it. The edges done, I then pare the margins around the leather, which are called turn-ins, to make them easier to, well, turn in, or mould, if you will, over the boards. The leather is now ready to make into a beautiful case, which we will see in the next video. I've been in touch with the lady whose missal this is throughout this process. It has been a long one, just with regular updates letting her know what stage we were up to, when she might expect it back with her. And I've always been replied to with something along the lines of, there's no rush because, you know, I'd given this up as a lost cause. I think you can see from the finished book that something would have to be really very far gone for me not to be able to repair a book like this, and to make sure that the book stays in this pristine condition that I've laboured to bring it back into. I've made a slipcase for the Missal as well. Nothing terribly fancy, nice decorative paper on the inside, that's a touch I always like, but just a plain black slipcase that means this book is going to be protected when it gets, you know, thrown in a handbag or left out on a table or something. It's quite snug, which is what you want because it's not going to accidentally slide out, and it just means that the box is going to take the brunt of any abuse that it might get, rather than the book itself. Again, if you've got something out of this video, do hit the thumbs up so that YouTube will show it to more people who might also enjoy it. Click on part 2 to see the next one in the series covering the book in leather, and I'll see you back in the bindery then.